Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply. In this video is to bring you a closer look at the Corbin 785F228. This is what's called a chassis, is what this is. This is a subcomponent from their CL3300 series lock sets. There are several different chassis available because the functions are several and many. This is a very particular function chassis. I believe this is Classroom, but we'll discover that in a moment. They don't offer any subcomponents underneath this chassis, at least not in this grade of lock. They may in their other locks. We have a client, a hospital, who has a deployment of CL3300 locks, and they routinely buy inside spring assemblies, outside spring assemblies, occasionally chassis, and they just are able to continue to get useful service out of the significant investment in door hardware by replacing the chassis that they need. Okay, so there is a link below this video to the manufacturer's, there's a link below this video to the parts manual, and let's take a closer look at that. But first, just a couple of basic dimensional properties of the item. I would say an overall length of the chassis is going to be right at about 7 3/16. Your retracting hub is here. Pull your latch bolt back. Okay. Now, let's take a look at that parts manual and see where this chassis part number comes from. Okay, this is the page on which we are looking at this item. In the parts manual that's listed here, you'll be able to locate and view our chassis that we have here. But when you get to page 3, they're showing you the parts that are available. And as we look at what's available, not a lot necessarily. So we have this client, this hospital, in fact, in Florida, and they have a deployment of CL3300, and they are able to purchase these subcomponents to continue to get useful service out of the significant investment in the lock. They buy the outside spring assemblies and the inside spring assemblies, and that's because that's where the springs are packed to keep the levers running healthily. Obviously chassis are easy. However, the ability to rebuild the chassis is not possible because the subcomponents here, of which there would be, 18 of them possibly inside of here, those aren't available. So on one hand, it's easy that you can rebuild the lock. Well, sure, because you're really not rebuilding the lock. Your disassembly of the lock like this is almost how you get it when it comes out of the lock box. But the point of the matter is they make these parts available so that you can continue to get useful, serviceable, continuing life expectancy out of the significant investment in the original lock, is the bottom line. Now, there is, moving on, chassis part number 1. It's on page 4. Now, we are doing on page 4, we're doing the chassis that's here, standard chassis. This client is doing the 785F228. That happens to be a Classroom function, but it happens to be the large format. I know that this client runs large format interchangeable core. They have, I'm not sure their keying system, but they certainly have large format. Small format's not available in CL3300. This column would be for your conventional cylinders here, and this column is for your interchangeable core. The function is here. That's very important. The client initially may have ordered this chassis, and when we got to talking about it, I did tell him I thought he was doing keyed locks. Well, it wasn't quite obvious that that part number, of which there are several and many, for just the chassis, are all tied to the function. So be mindful, this entire document is going to be really helpful to allow you to get that useful service out of the investment in the locks. The 783F208, very common, the F308. Outside and inside spring assembly, because again, inside of here are where those springs are packed to keep your levers operating correctly. Now, one thing that we can take a look at is the 785F228 that the client ordered. Is not an inexpensive piece of equipment, is what I'm driving at. I pull up the list price, and I see that the list price, at least in 2019, is $208. If we were to look at the list of the entire lock, you'll see that it's $648. So the point of the matter is, the original lock is not inexpensive. If you were to try to build an entire lock by parts, obviously that would be a fool's errand. But when you have, in this hospital, there is very likely hundreds of these locks. You need chassis, or you need spring cage assemblies. Yeah, the ability to keep a $650 list price lock working is easy money. I think decisions should be made on whether or not you can rebuild those locks, because that's the responsible way to be the custodian of that original investment that was put out. There's also a link to the product brochure that's here as well from Corbin Russwin. It's an overview of the entire series as a new lock set. It's there for your informational purposes only. You might say to yourself, I'm really not sure what keying system I have. Well, you can scroll down through and get to cylinders. They're here somewhere. Cylinders and keying. And find all of the different cylinders that are available. Okay, I was wrong. They do offer SFIC. That SFIC chassis, I'm sure, is going to be the same chassis as the standard chassis. Would be my conclusion on that. Okay, continuing further. Master ring is not available. That's possibly what I was thinking. Finishes. Anyway, the document is there because it's very handy. Let's finish up this video. I believe that all those documents put together will allow you to make informed decisions about obtaining your parts and reviewing the system overall. There is finally a link below this video to the manufacturer's page where you can pull up not only all of the Corbin Russwin products that we sell, but also a link to the manufacturer's website, as well as a link to the full product catalog. But also on that page will be encyclopedic documents, parts manuals, any specialized installation instructions we would keep there. Fun fact, there are several archival catalogs that go back to the 19th century from Corbin, P.F. Corbin. Russell and Irwin aren't on that page. They would be under the Russell and Irwin page. That's how the name was. So very interesting archival data that's there. If you wanted to take a trip back in time and see what Corbin was making in 1895, that's easy. Just fire up that not small PDF document that's there. Those catalogs were big back in the day. If you have any questions on the Corbin Russwin 785F228, the classroom style large format chassis, or any other Corbin Russwin product, please feel free to reach out to us. And thank you.